Hello, YouTube. This is an alcohol review of Douglas and Todd small batch bourbon whiskey. There we are. According to the label, 93 proof. Look at the Ozarks. Distilled and aged 4 years in charred oak barrels in the varied climates of 2 historic Minnesota counties. 46.5 alcohol by volume, 750 ml bottle. I like that varied climates. That says to me there's no climate control in their storage. Which, actually, by looking at other distilleries, they also don't have any climate control. It's shocking. If you don't mind me going on a bit of a tangent here, how they keep the places cool. At least this one particular distillery, in that they dug down about 10 feet or more. So when you walk in on the ground floor, you can look through these loosely placed down boards. So the boards themselves are locked down solid, but they're loosely spaced out. And you feel all the cold, rising up from the very bottom. And it's all that cold air from the geothermal, the thermal, you think hot, but in this case it's cold, considering it was a very hot day that day. And as the heat would go away, rising, as we all know, heat rises, the cold air from the outside would come in and pull up all the cold out of the pit down below. It's a very clever idea. It says here on the back label, Douglas and Todd is a small batch, handcrafted straight bourbon, born and raised in the unforgiving plains of Minnesota. Our bourbon is aged a minimum of 4 hard years in handmade oak barrels that provides D&T its distinctive character. Distilled and rested in 2 historic counties. At the first craft distillery in Minnesota, Douglas and Todd was built to be a bourbon drinker's bourbon. Well, from what that tells me, if the description is accurate, no reason to say it is, and no reason to say it's not. Wow, it's getting dark on that screen. I have to redo this. It says here about it being rested in 2 historic counties. So I would have to say possibly they spent 2 years in one, then they moved the whole thing to another site, and probably that is the site that they end up bottling it from. So you distill at one site, store it 2 years, move it 2 years, bottle, off you go. And both sites are not climate controlled. So, either way, it's always nice to pick apart language like that. Like I said, it was my bread and butter for many years to do such things. So it's always fun to pick apart and listen to and follow and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, this just might be too dark. Well, we'll continue on and see what happens. Alrighty, we have a nice caramel. Okay, I thought it was something floating in there, but it's not. It's just a glare. But it's a nice caramel yellow color. Very strong nose. I mean, punch you in the face, strong nose. Lots of orange, lots of stone fruit, lots of caramel. Vanilla. Lots of ethanol. There's going to be a lot of bite in this. Pleasant all in all, but strong. It is now starting to gain legs. So, so nice on that part too. Everything you smell, as strong as you smell it, comes out equally hard, equally strong. There's a sharp, I won't say bite, it's a burn, a very, very strong burn on the tongue, on the sides of the tongue, down the back. It's like swallowing a little ball of fire. But once you get past that, there's a hint of bitterness of the ethanol. Once you get past that, you start getting into orange, stone fruits, caramel and vanillas. Lots of caramel and vanillas. That's nice. But there's a lot of digging to get to it. But once you get there, there is a plentiful amount of it, but it's a lot of digging. Now, as you get used to that burning, that burning sensation, and get past the ethanol part, it becomes a nice glass of bourbon. I'm willing to bet with this need is a little bit of water. Lots of times I'll put a little bit of water into it, I'll bring out more, bring out the nose, things like that. I just didn't this time. A little bit of water, or better yet, and this is going to sound terrible, but a small piece of ice. The problems with ice is twofold. One is that it will dim down the flavor. Two, it waters down your bourbon. So you can lose upwards of 80% of what you're tasting just by introducing an ice cube. This guy is so rough, and bold that it could use a little bit of ice to sit it out in a corner and let it think its thoughts out more clearly. Excuse me. Before you take another sip. So I would have to say this is probably best sipped with ice. Usually I don't say anything about ice or want to put ice into it, but in this case, you might be better off with it, just to help tone it down. Cocktail-wise, it wouldn't be bad. I think it would be a waste. You don't often get such strong flavors out of a bourbon, and without it being too mangled in one way or another. So this one, you just got to get past the burning of the initial 2 or 3 sips, and after that, it's tolerable. Sorry, but yeah. Either way, putting it into a cocktail, I think would be a waste. I think having it straight, or on ice, neat or on the rocks, but not in a cocktail. See what you guys think. This is Douglas and Todd's small batch bourbon whiskey from the wilds of Minnesota's plains, it seems. Any comments down below about this particular product, we warmly accept it, or better yet, go out, buy it, and try it, and do a review on the YouTube. Let the rest of us in the YouTube spirits community know your thoughts about this particular product. It's Douglas and Todd's small batch bourbon whiskey. And until next time, keep on drinking.